theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. This is a special for our next guest, Stephen Moore, because I know in what high regard he holds Paul Krugman. Nobel laureate in economics, Paul Krugman. Steve Moore can't say that. I mean, he could say he's a Nobel laureate, but that would be untrue. He could always say it. Graham Plattner says all kinds of things that are untrue, so why not? Paul Krugman calling for demagification of America.
We need to defang Trump as much as possible and make sure that neither he nor anybody who follows in his footsteps has power after the next two elections. But beyond that, we really need to do a thorough purging of the United States. We need a demagification, and that is, I'm not going over the top by using a word that's very similar to the denazification that we pursued successfully after World War II in Germany.
He's very comfortable comparing demagification to denazification. He's very comfortable with that. Okay. Stephen Moore, you better be nicer to Paul Krugman, otherwise you're going to make the list, buddy.
Yeah, that's for sure. I'm going to be purged, right? And by the way, this is just a week of good news because now, Bernie Sanders is going to take over 50% of the technology industry, and that'll make it a real home run for investors. Can you imagine investing in a company run by Bernie Sanders?
He wants the government to take a 50% stake in all AI companies.
Yeah, which means that he wants to have the government to basically own the company. Incidentally,
just in time for that Anthropic IPO too. Good timing on his part.
Yeah, exactly, and also SpaceX and so on. So here's the thing: if you want the government to own 50% of American corporations, guess what, folks? They almost already do. So we already have counting state and local, we have close to a 30% corporate tax. That means the government gets 30% of the shares, right? Because they get 30% of the profits. And then you have on top of that a dividend tax, a capital gains tax, an income tax, and you add up all these. And we almost, in America, do have 50% ownership of American companies. So now we're going to have like 75, 80% of the ownership being run by the government. It's obviously a dim-witted idea, but this is the kind of deep thinking we're getting out of the Paul Krugmans of the world. Incidentally, it's an interesting time for Paul Krugman to be really attacking Trump's policies because in just the last month, the economy's really picked up in a big way. I mean, we're seeing obviously all-time highs in the NASDAQ, the S&P 500, and the Dow. We're seeing record amounts of investment by American businesses. The labor market is picking up. Jobs availability is increasing. And inflation is going to start to come down. I know people are still angry about what it costs to buy a steak or a hamburger these days or fill up a tank, but we're starting to see even improvement on the inflation numbers. So I'm feeling pretty good about the economy right now.
If only Paul Krugman was limiting his criticism to Trump's policies, that would be one thing. Talking about demagification and directly comparing it to denazification, boy, that's real. I mean, he's not the first one to do it, but I mean, for somebody.
Well, what they're going to do,
yes.
You don't understand the plan here.
Yeah,
they're going to put people
I think I do.
Me and you in re-education camps.
Yes, yeah. No, I mean,
and by the way, Dan, you're going to be at the very top of that list.
It's not as funny as you're making it out to be, though. That's my only concern. That's not going to be the good time you might think it is. So, I mean, with respect to the economy, other than particularly gas prices, the sort of in the context of the affordability, but gas prices right now because it implicates the war in the Middle East. What are there? You're talking about sort of all the good news. Is there anything? Right. Is there any gathering storm that you see? Is there anything that you're particularly concerned about in the short term?
Yeah, sure. I mean, first of all, I'm concerned about the big revolt against the technology industry and AI and data centers. It's happening all over the country.
Yeah.
Even a lot of my friends on the right are, oh no, we can't have data centers, we can't electric power plants, we can't have nuclear power. You know, in other words, this could really put a big dent into the American leadership in the next generation of technology, which, by the way, is going to be completely awesome. I mean, literally, I was just spent the day yesterday with some of these health professionals who are doing AI. I mean, what they're doing with medical services in AI is incredible. I mean, they can now detect cancer cells much sooner. So that means, you know, instead of having stage 4 cancer, you know, we'll be able to detect cancer when it's stage 1, and that means we'll be able to save millions and millions of lives. Literally, they're finding ways to bring sight to the blind. People can rise out of their wheelchairs. I mean, that's just one example of the amazing things that are coming with respect to AI. So I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned about the how long is this going to take to get the Iran situation settled? You know, I mean, it seems like this is never ending right now, because the Iranians, one day they say they're going to do one thing and the next they say another. So how long will that last? How long are we going to be facing $80, $90 a barrel oil, because that's a tax on the American economy? So those are, and then I'm also worried about debt. You know, the consumer debt is rising and credit card debt is rising. So are we going to start to see defaults? And so those are things to be concerned about.
Mm-hmm. I want to get your take on the political goings on a bit, because, of course, they implicate economic policy. And in California, much watched races, Steve Hilton in the lead right now. He's going to make the runoff against Javier Becerra. And obviously Spencer Pratt and Karen Bass are going to go to a runoff too. One of the things that Steve Hilton has been campaigning on, a little bit different than, I mean, it's something that Pratt is also campaigning on, but it's not as central to his campaign as it is at the state level because of all the scrutiny on fraud. Steve Hilton issued this video this week in advance of yesterday's election.
I want to show you my first executive order as governor of California. Here it is. This will be enacted on day 1 when I'm governor. This is establishing a California taxpayer fraud strike force. This will make sure that we investigate and prosecute the billions and billions and billions of dollars of fraud, theft of taxpayer money that has occurred over the last few years, including...
You know, one way to reduce the tax burden on the taxpayers is to make sure that so much of their money isn't squandered.
Well, look, I mean, first of all, here's the problem with this is there's a good reason why there's so much fraud in California. You know what that is? They want the fraud.
Well, they want
the federal dollar, so they view it as free money. It's like trying to sign up everybody they possibly and food stamps and all of these programs. So there's no incentive to reduce the fraud. Look, I hope Steve Hilton comes in and does that, because just according to the government's own estimates, the federal government's own estimates, the fraud is now over $1 trillion. $1 trillion.
Well, right, but this seems to me, I mean, this is something that J.D. Vance is trying to build a reputation on. You have some governors and gubernatorial candidates doing it, but it seems like this is the opportunity, I keep beating this drum, for the Republican Party not only to champion these task forces, these investigations, the independent journalists that are doing the investigations, but also use this as the leverage to have a larger conversation about entitlement reform writ large. Steve, did we lose Steve?
Yeah, I lost you there for a second. You were just talking about entitlement.
Yeah, and I just say to leverage this to talk about, you know, how we have entitlement programs set up and what we should do to radically restructure them.
Well, listen, the whole incentive structure is for states to load up as many people on these programs as possible. Did you see, by the way, in New York, they had a Wall Street Journal article, I love this, that in, I think it's New York, you can get Medicaid coverage for exorcisms?
Yes. Yeah.
And tribal dances and tribal healing and all these things. I mean, it's gotten to be so ridiculous how much they're... Probably we couldn't balance the budget by getting rid of fraud, but we could easily cut the deficit in half. by just getting rid of fraudulent and erroneous and basically stealing. And by the way, this is stealing from the taxpayers.
Well, look, I mean, not everybody can afford to exorcise the demons, Steve. Some people need a little bit of help.
Exactly. Well, I need a little help.
Yeah, right. Before we let you go, I got to have you comment on this. Is like getting some attention, but not nearly the attention it deserves. The initiative that has now passed the legislature in the state of Florida, so it will be a ballot question in November. It will require 60% approval by the voters. Ron DeSantis moving to eliminate property taxes on homesteaded properties in the state of Florida, starting with the first $250,000, which represents 60% of all household home values. So, in other words, the first $250,000 in assessed valuation is going to be exempt from property taxes. That's going to be zero property taxes for 60% of the Florida population. This is astounding what's going on.
Well, by the way, it is, and that's why Ron DeSantis is the best governor in America. And can you imagine if you just even have 1 year of Ron DeSantis in Illinois, what could happen? But I thought you were going to ask me about something even more astounding, which is that in Illinois they want to have, what is it they want to do with the Uber drivers, and they
unionize
them? They're not going to allow driverless Ubers, which is already in place in California and a lot of the western states. But what is it? They want to unionize them? I forget what it was, but
yeah. Well, right. We're a union state, Steve, and we'd prefer if they just got government jobs. But if they want to stay in the private sector, they still got to unionize. Yeah.
Oh, my God. I mean, the one cool thing about this kind of digital age is that you have, anybody can be an Uber driver. Now you've got to join a union. I mean, it doesn't make any – that's just going to make it more expensive, folks, to take an Uber or to take a Lyft. And, middle-income people and low-income people do that. So you're going to raise their prices. That's ingenious.
Well, that's all right. We got a program in the city of Chicago where you could get up to $70,000 in a down payment grant to buy a home if you make less than like 190 grand as a household of four, or less than 127 grand as an individual. That's part of the $1.25 billion that Brandon Johnson borrowed to do public housing projects and grant programs like this. So we're borrowing money to give it away so people can buy houses or build public housing projects.
Yeah, where's that money going to come from?
Well, what do you mean?
They'll figure it out.
Yeah, we borrowed it.
Where's the 1.9 billion?
It's with bond issued. We're borrowing against tomorrow to pay for yesterday, like we do here. It's going well. So I don't think.
By the way, what are the bets that within about 2-3 years that the foreclosure rate on those houses is going to be like 90%?
Well, we'll jump off that bridge when we come to it, Steve. Stephen Moore, economist.
Go Paul Krugman. You just made my day. I thought Paul Krugman had gone away, but I guess he's still.
No, and his gray matter may be leaving him, but no, he's still around, saying wild things for a guy, with his quote unquote standing. That's something that you expect from.
When they come for me, Dan, when they come knocking on my door, I would say, you don't want me, you want Dan.
Well, when they come,
the troublemaker.
When they come looking for you and they ask me, I'm going to say, yeah, he's right around here. He's right over the corner. Go, right there, and then I'm running the other way. This is every man for himself. Steve Moore, economist, author of The Trump Economic Miracle. Thanks, Steve.
Okay, thanks, Dan.
All right. And Steve joined us on the alphawealthgroup.com answer line.
There's only one radio show in Chicago talking about today's biggest stories and telling you what they really mean. That show is this one, Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer. Don't miss In Grace with Pastor Jim Scudder Jr., now heard on Sunday mornings at 7:30. Tune in and find hope as Jim Scudder explores God's Word and His world each Sunday morning right here on AM 560, The Answer.
Are you 65 or older and dealing with chronic knee or shoulder pain? You're not alone. At the Joint Relief Institute, we've helped thousands find real relief without surgery. Our non-surgical, FDA-approved treatment